All right. All right, Chris Bumbray's in the house to talk Rocky 2 with us. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Get over here! Hi, I'm martial art master Daniel Pacino. You know me as the original Johnny Cage, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Reptile, and Smoke. You are tuning in to NerdCage Live on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. Don't miss an episode or you'll get caged. So let's finish him.
This is Anthony Marquez, better known as Kung Lao for Mortal Kombat. Make sure to like and subscribe to NerdCage Live. Be there. Us.
Hey everybody, this is Dave Niebor from Dog Eat Dog, and you're watching NerdCage Live. So like, share, and subscribe to this channel. These are great guys doing what they love to do.
NerdCage Live and gaming are a perfect match.
Shoot the J, Joe. Okay. Shoot it! All right.
Over on NerdCage Live on Twitch, Jay and Joe go live.
Call me Bazooka Joe.
It's all about you.
Kaboom!
Playing both old school and new school games every Tuesday night. Ooh, what a sight!
Jay, stop looking at her face and run. But she's so beautiful.
So be sure to follow NerdCage Live on Twitch.
Run for your life, Joe. Run for your life, Joe.
Running.
Run faster. Oh no, Joe. The galaxy's doomed because of you.
To scratch your gaming itch.
Oh, nice kick, Joe.
Thank you.
Yo, that's diabolical. Wait. Yo!
That's twitch.tv/NerdCage Live.
Hi, I'm Leah Montalongo, the OG Sindel. Please like, subscribe to NerdCage Live.
This is Ernie C. from Body Count. You're tuned in to NerdCage. Can you like and subscribe?
Hey guys, it's the original Shao Kahn, Brian Glenn, and I'd like you to subscribe to NerdCage Live.
Hey, how you doing? You're about to witness the strength of geek knowledge, you know?
you would just go away. Don't come back another day, okay? Hey, Rocky, I hate to say, I wish you would just go away. Don't come back another day, okay?
It has begun.
If what you say is true, the Shaolin
And the NerdCage
could be dangerous.
Greetings, citizens. You're now trapped in a NerdCage. We hope you have a smashing good time.
Oh no, don't. Oh no.
You're now about to witness the strength of geek knowledge alone. Welcome, that is right. Once again, you are trapped in NerdCage Live. This channel is a celebration of all things pop culture, including yours truly, the Rocky movie. So if you are new to the channel, please hit that like button and subscribe. Let's get to 4,000 subscribers by Christmas. I think we can do it. I'm your co-host, Jay St. G, certified geek, 7 days a week, coming to you live from yours truly in the land of the orange, the land of Tom Cruise, the land of Earth Crisis, the land of Anthrax, of Syracuse, New York. And our moderator and Trollhammer's not here tonight. He's out saving the world. But it is my honor to introduce my boss. You know him. He is the editor-in-chief of JoBLo.com, JoBLo Originals, everything JoBLo, runs the show at JoBLo. Ladies and gentlemen of NerdCage Nation, please welcome back Christopher Bumbray. How you doing, man?
Man, I can't believe you ate that egg. I hope you don't expect me to do that. I've got a glass here, but it's gin, so
Bro,
no.
I drink eggs every goddamn day, just like Stallone.
Eggs, you want to get shredded, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. You got to. Come on, we're Stallone fans. That's what we
Okay.
aspire to be.
Cook it first. Throw it in a frying pan, then eat it.
Dude, ain't no time. I ain't got no time to cook, man. I got so much. Listen, between NerdCage, JoBLo, my job, the gym, ain't no time to cook, man. I do them eggs raw, man. Hulk Hogan did it. Stallone did it. Your boy Jay does it. But anyway, Chris, thanks so much for being here. Hold on, I'm just gonna roll this clip real quick. I want the world to see this. There's no bigger fan in the world of Sylvester Stallone than Chris Bumbray, and here's your proof, guys. Here.
Chris Bumbray from JoBLo.com.
Hi, Chris.
Huge.
Hey, thank you, guys. You've been very nice in the past few decades.
Oh, we're such huge fans of yours, man.
Thank you.
Mr. Stallone. We have a show, Sylvester Stallone Revisited, that I do with this guy, John Fallon. We go through all your movies. And it's huge on YouTube. People love you. You're my favorite actor. I'm sorry, I won't gush anymore.
Great. Wow.
I won't gush anymore. Okay, so.
Yeah.
Yes,
100%.
Chris. I had to play that clip, man.
I interviewed him again after that. I did. I talked to his whole family, his daughters, his wife, for the family Stallone. It was great.
And then also you did the Tusla King, right?
I didn't actually. I wasn't. It was like a weird like group interview thing. Like he said hi to me and stuff like that. Like I did get like one question in with him, but it was like edited together. I wouldn't call them like 100% Tulsa King interviews, but I'm hoping for like the next show he does more interviews because he's always cool to talk to. And he's so super nice. From my experience with him, he's been great.
And now when he did the other interviews, did he remember you?
He does every time. I've spoken to him 3 times. Each time he's always remembered me, but he doesn't call me Chris. He calls me JoBLo. He's like, hey, JoBLo, how you doing? Hey. Every time.
Love it.
Every time. Every time. He remembers, hey, JoBLo. I think he just thinks of me as JoBLo. Hey, how you doing?
All right, so we're here to talk about, I can't believe it. It's this week, Chris. This week, to this day, this week marks the 45th anniversary of Rocky 2. I just feel that this is the most underrated Rocky. I think it's the most overlooked Rocky. There's lots to talk about. There's lots to like it. There's a small couple things I dislike, but I love this movie so much. And I figured tonight was a great opportunity to work with you again. And I figured we could talk about scenes that we like, some behind the scenes stuff, and everything about this movie. So for starters, man, what does this franchise mean to you, and what does this particular sequel mean to you, man?
It's interesting because, when I interviewed Stallone, what I told him was that, I think to a lot of us who grew up in the 80s and 90s, that Rocky was kind of a pseudo father figure in some ways, right? Like we feel like we were partly raised by Stallone as Rocky, as that character, because Rocky is, a purely good character. There's no shades of gray with him. Right? Like he's 100% positive, right? Which you wouldn't say necessarily about any other character. He's like a true hero. If you get to the Creed movies, there's no, when Rocky's on, nobody's talking about race or anything like that. Rocky doesn't see it. Rocky's just 100% like this purely positive force for good, right? And I think that even Stallone has said that Rocky's the guy he can never live up to in his own life, and I don't think anybody can. But it's interesting because Rocky 2, I do think it's overlooked a bit, but I think what people have to realize is that it's a pretty important movie in some ways, because the thing about it was sequels, when Rocky 2 came out, were done very differently than they are now. The thing about sequels is that they were always seen as, the law of diminishing returns, right? Where each sequel would come out and it would make a little less money than the movie before it, and it would have a smaller budget and it would be a little less prestigious and a little less, that's something we'd get excited about. If you look at the sequels that came out during the 70s, there were the Planet of the Apes movies, there was French Connection 2, there was Exorcist 2. French Connection 2 and Exorcist 2 were pretty much both disasters, right? And so sequels were seen as I remember the Walking Tall movies, they couldn't even get Joe Don Baker back for the sequels. That's how it was back then, because sequels were seen as like garbage, and Stallone was the first one to really, go out and say, I'm going to make a movie that's as good as or better than the original. I don't think he necessarily succeeded in that regard, because I think it's lightning in a bottle, but he made a damn good movie, and he made it like an A+ film and really pleased his audience, and it made a ton of money, put him on top. And it made it so that it was a character he could return to over and over again in his career. And I really think it changed the way people think about sequels, because I don't know that without Rocky 2, there's even an Empire Strikes Back, or a Superman 2, or, all these other big sequels that came along. And now, if a movie's a success, it's almost a given that there's going to be a sequel, right? Bad Boys 4 last weekend made 50 some odd $million. This week they're probably talking about when's Bad Boys 5 going to get made. It's just that's how it is. The movie has a good enough opening weekend, they're already talking about a sequel, and that's just not how it was back then.
Yeah. Also, there's one thing that I will have to point out what you just said about, making this movie better or not. Like, I don't think Rocky 2 is better than Rocky 1, not by a stretch.
No, me neither. Me neither. And I don't even think Stallone would say that. He said it was lightning in a bottle, the first movie.
But I will say this is where the second movie does surpass the first movie. I think that the fight is better in Rocky 2.
Okay, so the fights in all the Rocky movies are good. The one thing that drives me nuts about any Rocky movie, though, as somebody who boxed, is that nobody ever puts their fucking hands up. And it's like, it's one of those things, like he's always fighting like this, and it's just like, I get it, because it's it's just that always drives me nuts, man. Because when you're boxing,
I think the Creed movies did a better job of that, but
I think so. I think the Creed movies they have, but even still, like a lot of times they're not doing it. And almost every boxing movie from that era does the same things, I guess, because you want to see the lead's face, but it's just like, put your hands up.
That's just it. You gotta see the lead's face, but But the thing
Yeah.
is, though, that always drives me nuts, and I'm a boxing fan myself. In fact, the Boxing Hall of Fame parade was in Syracuse last week.
Yeah.
Michael Moore got inducted.
I took boxing for years, and it was just, and I boxed. And it's just the thing you got to do is you got to keep your hands up, man. You got to keep your hands up.
By the way, we got Tyler in the chat. He says the boxing in Rocky is terrible. What I was just going to say is the amount of punches thrown in a single round in a Rocky movie is about the length of a real boxing fight. Not just a round, like the amount of boxes thrown in the length of a boxing fight is like thrown in a single round of a Rocky movie.
Well, no, not only that, but I mean, the Foley work, whenever a punch lands, like, it's like a knockout punch, like,
yeah.
I mean, the fighting in like, Rocky IV, neither of those men would have, nobody would have ever sanctioned a fight between Dolph Lundgren and Sylvester Stallone because of the height difference, and even just the fact that Stallone as Rocky is fighting as a heavyweight is like, really? Like the heavyweight champion of the world? Like, okay, but but it's just like but then again, it's Hollywood and it's magic, right? And it's just, it's a testament to the power of the movies, though, that you never question it, right? It's magical because it's Stallone. And this is the movie where he goes from a southpaw fighter into like a right-handed fighter, which is not something that you could just change in your career, and it makes him better. Or he changes like weight classes almost in Rocky 3, but that's movie magic, though. It's not necessarily supposed to be realistic. And I think that if you're complaining about Rocky, like, well, this is what actually would have happened, you probably don't get the point of the franchise. But again, that just drives me crazy, though. It's keep your fucking hands up, man. It's the first thing you learn when you learn boxing. Keep your hands up. You got to block.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I will say this, so this is something I appreciate in both Rocky 2 and Rocky 3 that we didn't see in the other movies, and it's just 2 and 3, is at least when Rocky's training for the fight, they have a strategy. Like, they actually break it down, like, okay, this is what we're going to do against Clubber, this is what we're going to do about Creed, but we're going to change everything this time. You got that bad eye, so we're going to protect this bad eye, we're going to make you go switch from southpaw to orthodox and whatever.
Yeah.
He's not wrong. Is it realistic for a boxer to do it, especially in 6 months? Hell no. But at least that was the strategy. Like, that was really the fucking strategy. And I like the fact that, he's like, switch now. Like, it's. I appreciate the fact that Rocky 2, they really focused, they zeroed in on the fight, and I love that about Rocky 2.
Well, and it's brilliantly edited, and it's very well shot as well. And it's really well scored as well. That, like, the Bill Conti music.
Bill Conti, yeah.
Yeah, like, that part when Rocky, when he almost falls, when they both fall, and it's in slow, and it cuts to slow motion, exactly right time. The music kicks in. You cut back to Adrian freaking out. Yep. Like, it's an extremely well-made movie, right? Like, he plays his audience like a fucking fiddle, like, and he knows exactly how to make that. And Stallone, he was always passionate when he made these movies. Like, not many people know this, but he wrote the novelization for Rocky 2. It's just the novel by Stallone, from Rocky's perspective, and it's pretty fascinating to read. You can find it on the Internet Archive, actually.
Ooh, okay, I have to find it.
They upload library books from there, and you can find a scan of it, and it's actually on there. And it's funny, Tarantino's talked about that novelization all the time in interviews about how it was this kind of like hidden guide to like what Stallone's process was and what he was thinking when he was doing these kinds of things, and it's a really interesting read. But no, it's funny though. You were talking about your rankings of the films. Like, it's not my favorite. It's not even my second or third favorite. But it's still an amazing movie. Like, I've always been Rocky 1 for me, then 3, then probably Creed, then it would be Rocky 2, and then it would be probably Creed 2, then Rocky 4, then Rocky 5.
Yeah, mine's pretty similar there. For me, Rocky 1, Creed 1, Rocky 3.
I'm forgetting Rocky Balboa. No, forget it. Rocky Balboa would be up there. Sorry, Rocky Balboa would probably be right after Rocky 2 for me. Yeah.
I prefer. Don't get me wrong. I love the over the top of Rocky 3, but I prefer the grounded Rocky 1, Rocky 2. Creed,
and I get it, but I always found that like the mix of comic book and realism in Rocky 3 was the perfect kind of mix for that series, and it was also, when I was growing up, it was the one that I watched the most, right? So it's got the nostalgia factor for me, and the fact that Mr. T was in it, as the bad guy, guy. There's a lot, and the music and Eye of the Tiger. It's a lot of that. I mean, even Rocky 4, I've watched Rocky 4 a billion times.
Director's
it's not
cut's better.
Yeah. No, it's not.
Yes.
But, I mean, they changed the aspect ratio too, which drove me crazy. They just matted off the top and
only
bottom.
gripe I have, and I'm sorry we're going off the tangent, but we don't get to span over these movies much, but the one thing I hate about the director's cut is they took out the us versus them speech from Creed in the dressing room. That pissed me off. That's like one of my favorite scenes.
He was trying to make it less jingoistic, though. That was the thing. Like he was really trying to dial that down in this movie. Like he was making it from the perspective of a relatively enlightened person in 2023, as opposed to somebody who was trying to who was basically making propaganda in 1985. That's why you watch it. The ending is very different. It lands completely.
And again, that's another thing. I like the ending of the director's cut.
The ending is really good. His speech is great, and him and Drago like touching gloves is awesome. It's like the most of my interview when I mentioned that was great. And but then there were little things about it that drove me crazy, though, like the beats being cut off during the training montage. Because I've watched the training montage so much, just even cutting like one frame totally throws me off because I'm so used to the rhythm of that scene. But but then again, he did it the right way, where he didn't like pull copies of it off the market. Both versions of the movie exist.
Yeah.
So I think that's the way you're going to do it. And I'd be very curious to see him go back and do something with Rocky 5, because I know he's
talked about it. He said Stallone. I don't know if it was one of your interviews or another interview, but Stallone came out and said that he wants to redo Rocky 5. And Nighthawks are the two movies he wants to go back.
Problem is that the directors for both those movies are dead, and he's not the director. You could say, though, the idea, though, was always that he ghost directed Nighthawks, right? Like a lot of people think that. And Nighthawks really does need to be redone, because it's not that
he came out and said it. I've personally never watched it, but
it's an amazing movie. It doesn't need to be redone. It just needs the ending needs to be restored, because they cut it. The studio cut it because it was going to be X-rated because it was so violent. They need to restore that ending. Otherwise, it'd be great. And he also has said in interviews that he cut a lot of Rutger Hauer's role out because he felt jealous of his performance. And, and now in hindsight, he doesn't feel that way anymore. He's a lot more secure. There are a couple movies of his like that are due for re-edits, but the problem is a lot of them, the directors are dead, and he didn't really direct the movie.
I'm sure some hoops he's got to jump through, but that's just like he said.
The DCA wouldn't stand for him probably recutting movies where the directors have passed away, unfortunately. He'd have to get them to sign off.
And shout out to my cousin Greg, who's in the chat, says Rocky 1's the best. Creed's face when Rocky gets up and Rocky 1 is the ultimate. Yes, I agree. It's still my favorite. Now, one thing I appreciate in Rocky 2 that I don't think it gets talked about enough, Chris, the fact that, again, we're talking about directors now. The fact that Stallone took over direction in Rocky 2, and this was his second movie he directed, but it's the first time doing a Rocky movie. But the fact that he kept the direction so close to the first movie, like if you watch the first two movies back to back, it's like a continuation, and like it feels like it's the same director. And at least in my opinion, I feel like Stallone did a really good job keeping the same tone and direction of the first movie.
Well, the thing about Stallone is he's an amazing mimic, right? And I think that that's one of the things about him. And he's a true artist, and he really knows how to deconstruct a film, right? If you've ever heard him talk about films, he really does know exactly what he's doing in that regard. And you can see his style, his own personal style, surface more in Rocky 3, I think, because Stallone really, and if you watch any of his movies from the 80s, he really was heavily influenced by the rise of MTV. Big time, much more than people think. Like, and he was really into like quick cutting and music and stuff like that. And if you watch Staying Alive and if you watch Rocky 3, then you watch Staying Alive and you watch Rocky 4, and then even Cobra, which he allegedly ghost directed, you can really see that style, and Over the Top as well. You can really see that MTV aesthetic kind of take over. And it was something that he was slammed for in the 80s because people viewed that as like the death of cinema. But now, you go back and it's viewed as pretty provocative and groundbreaking. I think he gets a lot more respect as a director now than he ever did back then. But he's also like a painter. He's a pretty well-rounded artistic guy, and I think that he knew exactly what worked in the first Rocky. I'm sure that he was very involved with the direction of the movie anyway, because I think John G. Avildsen pretty much let him in you know, and he had a lot of control over the movie in the first place.
It was his movie.
Yeah, so he knew exactly kind of what he was doing, I think, and you know, and he doesn't depart from the formula because, you know, he did Paradise Alley before, which was a much more fanciful kind of movie, and it flopped. You know, and I think he wanted to make a movie that was going to be successful. You know, it wasn't like I'm going to make this artistic and blah 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 or whatever, some fancy schmancy stuff like that. I think he wanted to make something that would be very successful. So he kind of, you know, he wanted to stick as close to the first movie as he can, except Rocky wins. You know, it's that wish fulfillment. But, you know, the thing about Stallone, which is always brilliant, is that Rocky's victory has so much more impact in the second movie because he's lost, you know, and that's what makes him, you know, and that's the thing that Stallone has always had over a lot of other action heroes is that he'll take his licks, he'll get beaten. He's not invincible, you know, which is the opposite of guys like, for me, Jason Statham or Vin Diesel, or The Rock. You know, where they're like counting their punches.
Jackie Chan's another one. Jackie Chan takes beatings too.
Well, yeah, Jackie Chan's a great action hero, though, and I think that's
obviously Stallone was one of his inspirations too.
Exactly, and that's the thing. And you can watch. There are some guys that are out there, these younger guys that are coming up now, that are clearly have watched Stallone movies and are you know, one of the ones that for me that was palpable was watching. Monkey Man, Dev Patel's movie. I mean,
I've not seen it yet. I want to because I did the interview. So,
got 100% have been somewhat inspired by Stallone. I would say, you know, if I had interviewed him, I would have asked him that point blank, and I'm sure he probably was. You know, and I think Michael B. Jordan gets it. You know, after having done those Creed movies with him,
did a fantastic job directing Creed 3. I mean, Creed 3 had its problems, but he did a great job. And that was his first directorial too.
Yeah, and he's not like a god in these movies, though. Like he gets, you know, when he needs to, he takes a licking, you know. And I think that's what makes a great hero. And too many action stars or would-be action stars don't really get that, you know, where they're afraid of looking something less than masculine or something like that on the screen because they're challenged by that kind of thing. But Stallone never was. Stallone would emphasize the fact that he was shorter than his opponents. You know, I mean, that was another thing about him. You know, like you got to embrace the things that make you you and that make you human. And I think that's why the Rocky movies have the staying power, because it really doesn't matter at the end if he wins or loses. It's like they always say, he went the distance. You know, he did his best. So that already made him a winner. But that said, the fact that he lost in the first movie and he wins in the second movie gives it a lot more, because you don't know that he's going to win. You don't know 100% that he's going to win. But in Rocky 3, you don't know.
He pretty much was losing that whole fight. He had to get that knockout to win.
Well, and it's like a question. It's like chance as well. Like that's the thing. That's why him and, you know, and I mean, it's heavily implied in Rocky 4 that at the end, when at the end of Rocky 3, when Rocky and Apollo spar, that Apollo won, right?
Yeah, and then he finally revealed it in the first Creed. By the way, shout out to Fisk. I see Fisk in the chat there. Also, I've read somewhere that the original ending of Rocky 2, Rocky was supposed to die.
I mean, you know, who wants to see that though? He's talked about doing movies, like about killing off his characters so many times.
2 and 5 were the two movies that he almost
do
killed
it.
them off.
He's never gonna do it because he can't do it. He can't.
Yeah,
he even says so in his Netflix documentary that at the end of, you know, Last Blood, Rambo was dead, and he had them go in with CGI to make him breathe and move. Yeah. Because he was like, I can't kill him. I can't kill my hero. You know, and he's said so many times he wanted to kill off Rocky. Imagine if he had killed off Rocky in Rocky 5, and that's how the series had ended. You know, without him coming back for the
Tommy Gunn of all people.
Well, I know, and it's like fucking Tommy Gunn, you know, and it's like, and then to Tommy Morrison. I mean, come on, and to come back and to, like, you know, you got, you know, Rocky Balboa put him back, you know, brought him back. He was finished. His career was over. It was the comeback of all comebacks, and then, you know, he gets nominated for an Oscar with Creed. I mean, he wouldn't have had any of that.
I was so mad he didn't win. I mean, he got the Golden Globe, but I was so mad. I think there are 3 times in history where I got mad at the Oscars. I got mad at Michael Keaton not winning for Birdman. I got mad. Mickey
Yeah.
Rourke for the wrestler, I got mad, and then
Yeah, that was
Stallone
dumb.
losing. And
I think I threw like a beer bottle at my TV or something like that. I was pretty upset. Yeah, I went on a rant on Twitter about it, like a lot of people did. But it was nobody was more upset than Michael Rappaport. I never forget that video. Where he was like,
yes. Shout out
He
to
was
Michael
going-
Rappaport, Giants fan.
That is how I felt, though. I mean, he deserved it, man. And what a career that he's had. But it's all, Mark Rylance for Bridge of Spies. I mean, do people really remember that performance? Like, come on.
I mean,
even Mark
on the
Rylance
personal,
looked
at least
embarrassed.
Stallone's technically an Oscar winner for the first Rocky because he wrote the movie,
Sure.
so he's technically an Oscar winner. He just didn't win the category I think he deserved the most.
And
which is
they gave it to Mark Rylance because he's British. It's like they were just never gonna give Stallone an Oscar, and it's like whatever. He's just never gonna get it. Like,
I'm
from
sure,
that-
given his political beliefs, I'm sure has something to do with it.
I mean, what political beliefs? The thing about Stallone is he's always played that coy.
Yeah,
I mean,
but his brother not so much. Frank Stallone.
But his brother's his brother. His brother's his brother. His his own man. If you watch Family Stallone, I mean, they all kind of.
I have not watched it. Yeah, I'm going to.
It's great, but they all acknowledge that he's nuts. Like he's fun. They love him, but he's
Of
a
course,
character.
everyone's got that crazy brother, that crazy.
And
sister.
I've met Frank Stallone in person, and he's a nice guy. He really is. I mean, so he's like a super right leaning guy. I mean, whatever. I'm not, but I'm not of the opinion that we can't like people because of their political beliefs.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't
Which
share
is why we
political
don't talk politics on this channel.
but it's not my business what way he votes, and I like to believe that Stallone, isn't necessarily a Trump supporter, and I think he's been smart because he's always played it coy as to what he was. Because what are you gonna do? You're gonna he's not a fucking politician. He's Rocky. He's Stallone. He's for everybody. He's not for one person. He's for everyone.
Yes. Also, going a little off topic here, but I read recently. It was an article. It just came out recently. I forgot what website. But apparently, Rocky 2 was actually supposed to be Rocky 3. There was actually a part 2 that Stallone did write for Rocky, where Adrian and Rocky broke up, but they got back together. That was supposed to be the second film that he initially had planned before, but for whatever reason they didn't do that, and what was Rocky 3 became Rocky 2.
Yeah, apparently it was a very dark screenplay, and it was just, I mean, his career was at a different point back then, though.
Yeah.
If you look at like in 1978, he does Fist, pretty much the Jimmy Hoffa story for Norman Jewison. He wasn't being positioned as the guy that he eventually became. He was being positioned as the next Brando, so he was probably looking to do like his On the Waterfront, and that was the thing. So he was probably trying to, think, how am I going to make this really, dark, and then he decided to embrace the light, and he became what he became, and thank God he did, because, the world has enough wannabe method actors that think they're Brando, especially in that era, so and he went his own way, and I think that was great.
Yeah, plus I don't think I'd want to see like that version of Rocky.
I don't want to
Rocky
see fucking Rocky and Adrian break up. God forbid. That would
Especially
be the worst.
after like we got so excited over the romance in the first movie. Why would they? So I'm glad they ultimately went in the direction they did for this continuation.
Yeah. I mean, he made the perfect sequel. And then 3 is amazing. 4 is fun for what it is. 5, I think, is underrated. I don't like Tommy Morrison. But the reason I don't like Tommy Morrison is more because of his 30 for 30 episode, and you find out like what kind of guy he was outside of the ring. That's why I don't like him in the movie.
I met him briefly, actually.
Did you really?
Yeah. He like I said, I live right near the Boxing Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And he showed up. This was when I was back in high school. I met him. I kind of like I shook his hand, and I'm like, we're supposed to be like this, Tommy. He laughed it off. Like I was 17, so.
I mean, okay, good. It sounds like he was an alright guy. I mean, for me, it was just he was
like
like
I said, it was just a brief moment. It wasn't like
he was like an AIDS denier though, and stuff like that. Like he could still be alive now, and in great shape if he had just taken his meds, like everybody does. That has
waste of talent, really. It's a damn
it was a
shame.
waste of a life. He would still 100% be alive if he wasn't a fucking idiot. But anyway, whatever.
So speaking of Rocky villains, Carl Weathers in this movie. By the way, Carl Weathers, rest in peace.
Rest in peace. Yeah, man.
But what a character transition that we see from the first to the second movie. We'll get to the other characters, but let's talk about Apollo Creed, where he went from the good PR, likable, I'm going to give this guy a shot, blah, 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 and now he's basically become a villain. And he just...
I don't see him as a villain. I don't see him as a villain in the movie at all. I think that he's just, he's trying to bring back... Look, realistically, if that was to happen, when Muhammad Ali went up against Wepner, if Wepner had fucking beat the shit out of him for 7 rounds or something like that, and it had come really close, Muhammad Ali would have been freaked out too, because people would have been like, well, you're not this great boxer that we all think you are. So realistically, Creed would have something to prove and would be very aggressive about getting the fight and would really pursue it because he wants to make the guy look like he's nothing, and he was having an off day. So I kind of get his whole arc in that movie, and I think that that's what makes his ultimate arc in the series really great, though. When the fact that that Rocky and Creed, Apollo become best friends is one of the great twists in film history, I think. And their bromance is one of the great bromances ever.
Absolutely, that shot at the beach.
Brings a tear to your eye.
One of my favorite, absolute favorite scenes. I got 3 favorite scenes. We'll talk about one of them right now. Actually, one of my all-time favorite scenes.
Rocky 2 is Ryan Coogler's favorite Rocky movie.
Really? Okay, that I didn't know.
Yes, it is. It is. He said that's why he wanted to do Creed, because that was the movie him and his father always watched when he was growing up.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
But my favorites, one of 3 favorite scenes in Rocky 2 was when he's talking to Duke, and he's like, "Do you think I beat him?" And he's like, "You really want to know?" And then he's just like, "I saw you beat a man I've never seen beaten in my entire life, and he just kept coming after you. We don't need that shit in our life. Let's move on." He's like, "Champ, I know what you're feeling. Let it go." And he's like, "Thank you very much. I needed to hear that." I love that scene. I love that scene.
Because Duke knows he's going to lose. That's the thing. He 100% knows he's going to lose, because he knows that Rocky is going to literally fight to the death in some ways. Yeah. And he's not going to give up. Whereas anybody else has that give up thing. You take enough punishment, you'll give up. He doesn't have that in him. And neither does Apollo. Apollo doesn't have that in him either, and he knows it. And that's the reason. But then that's what happens to Rocky in the 3rd movie, though. He becomes like Apollo is in the 2nd film. Apollo's not his best self in Rocky 2. Like he says in Rocky 3, he doesn't have the eye of the tiger.
Yeah, and I think Apollo's ego is what I don't think. Here's the thing: I don't think Rocky beat Apollo in Rocky 2. I think it was his ego. Yeah. If you know anything about boxing, all he had to do was stay away from him. Don't go. Just get the decision. But his ego wouldn't let him, because he knows that if it goes to another decision, he's going to get more hate mail. He's going to get
it had to be a knockout.
And I think
it had to be divisive, decisive for sure.
And I don't think it's ever been talked about, but I think when you watch the ending of Rocky 2, right where the ref's doing that count to 10, I think Creed saw, he said, "Fuck this." I think he gave up on purpose. I think he's just like, I'm not dealing with this again. Let him have it. He's like, I'd rather lose than to win by a decision. I think he just did not want to face the facts again.
Well, I think it's Creed just doesn't have the eye of the tiger anymore. That's the thing. We talk about all the movies, but I think, I would always say that Apollo Creed is probably a better boxer than Rocky Balboa is. In his prime,
he sticks and moves. He's sticking moves. Rocky,
but he's also over the hill by the time they get to the first Rocky. Though he's not in his prime anymore. So I think
they didn't say now how many. I don't think they ever said in the first movie how long he was champion for. Did they?
But he's not in his prime anymore, because a boxer's not in their prime when they hit 30
but
anymore.
I'm just saying that he was the champion, and so he must have defended the title for a while.
And got his ass beat a bunch of times, and it's like Ali in his later fights. It's just you have a peak that you hit, and then it's down. And I think that's the thing about those movies, like Apollo's and his downslope. That's what makes 4 all the more tragic, because there's no fucking way in hell.
And again, that was another thing. It was his ego. He could not let you know, his ego once again got the best of him, and it ultimately costed his life.
Yeah.
Another scene I really like, and both of them are, and they're both from Mickey. Shout out to Burgess Meredith. You know, I always love those performances, even in, like when he was in Twilight Zone and Penguin and all that. But I love in the very, very beginning of the movie where I loved it right in front of the whole press and right in front of Creed's face. He's like, "I don't care what them judges say. This is the man that won the fight." I love that. Love that.
He's a bum. Yeah, I know. I mean, you know, Burgess Meredith too. He was an incredibly talented actor. You know, he's been in so many great movies from the 19.
I feel like he never got his flowers. I really feel that way.
Well, I mean, it was, you know, he was blacklisted for a while. That was the thing. He was, you know, it was during the whole well, he wasn't officially blacklisted. He was graylisted, you know, because he was involved in the group theater and he was politically involved, and he was very, very much a Democrat, left-leaning guy, and you know, that got him, that totally screwed him for like 15 years of his career, you know, and that was so he was never gonna be able to. So in his prime, you know, he wasn't able to get roles. You know, he had to go to Europe. You know, and that's why Burgess Meredith hit his peak. You know, he hit his stride in the 70s, around the time he did, you know, Rocky and then Foul Play and all these other movies. That was when he was suddenly super popular. But it was also, he was, you know, but he was never as old as they made him look like he was in the Rocky movies, though. That's the thing. That's why he was able to still play Mickey.
Say, he aged.
Rocky 5. He looked
like,
the same.
Between Batman and Rocky, like he aged like a lot.
Well, because they made him look much older than he actually was, though. That's the thing. Like, they put a ton of makeup on him because he's playing like 15 years older than he was. That's why when he did Rocky 5, in those dream sequences, he looked exactly the same as he did in the first Rocky. He was able to play that role. You know, Stallone looked totally different, but Burgess Meredith looked the same.
Yeah. And another scene that Burgess Meredith I really loved too was like when Apollo Creed you know, released that, you know, that the news came out and he's trying to publicly challenge Rocky. Then you get a knock. Rocky gets a knock on his door in the middle of the night. Rocky opens up the door. He doesn't say hello or nothing, and he just says, "I say we ought to knock his block off."
Well, and then also when Adrian is like, "I just want you to do one thing, win," and he goes, "What are we waiting for?" Like, it's
he has all the best lines in this movie. I feel like this might be Burgess Meredith's best performance in like all the Rocky movies, honestly.
He's great in all of them. He's great in all of them. I think he's
this might be my favorite, though. You know?
I think his best performances in the first Rocky. I think he's incredible in the first Rocky.
All right, well, now that I gush over my favorite scenes, what are some of your favorite scenes in Rocky 2?
Well, I mean, I love the training montage, right? I think that the training montage in Rocky 2 is easily better than the training montage in Rocky 1. Sorry, drop something. You have like the, you know, you don't have the meat and stuff like that, but there's something about Rocky 2's training montage I found very rousing. You know, there's that. The fight at the end is incredible. You know, I always feel for Rocky when he's like outed as illiterate. You know, like that whole the part when he's shooting the commercial is heartbreaking. I don't think there's many actors that have the guts of Stallone in that scene to let himself be that vulnerable on screen. Like, it's pretty rare that you would never see anybody else do that. Never.
Yeah.
Brando in his maybe that's it.
Okay. One thing I want to talk about too, and you know, being a boxing fanatic, one thing I always love about the Rocky movies is that we always got cameos from like real boxers. Even in the Creed movies, they continued that. In fact, the Creed movies really leaned into that, bringing real boxers in. So in this movie, we get a very rare cameo from Hands of Stone himself, Roberto Duran. No mas. Well, that's another story for another day. But so legend has it, Chris, Roberto Duran. Keep in mind who was a welterweight, by the way. Stallone, heavyweight. Roberto Duran. I guess there was a behind the scenes sparring session between the two, between Stallone and Roberto Duran, and apparently Roberto Duran beat the ever living shit out of Stallone.
I mean, Stallone's not a boxer; he's an actor, you know. Yeah. So that was, and that's the thing. I think it's very easy to get confused when you're playing that role to think that you are Rocky, and you know, I can understand. I mean, Of course, Roberto Duran kicks his ass, but Chuck Wepner was supposed to be in it as well, right? Because it was going to be kind of, it was supposed to be like tossing him a bone, because of all the controversy about the first movie, but it didn't work out.
Yeah, no, it's
Then we did Lockup. Wepner was in prison with him, which is crazy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because when he was shooting Lockup, they shot at a real prison, and Chuck Wepner was an inmate at the time in that prison. Crazy.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
See, like I said, the stuff I'm learning today isn't. I think isn't there like a documentary about Chuck Wepner or just.
Well, there's a movie. There were 2 movies that were made about him, and one of them was with Liev Schreiber, and I saw it at. I think it's called Chuck. I forget. They might have renamed it. I'm not sure. But it was Liev Schreiber and his ex Naomi Watts.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was a good movie. Didn't really go anywhere, but it was good.
Yeah, and a couple characters we haven't talked about yet. Let's talk about Polly, Burt Young.
Polly.
By the way, Burt Young, rest in peace. I mean, I think you and I were texting each other when we got the news. Like,
I met him years ago at Musso and Frank's in Hollywood. It was a party for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I was there with Travis Hobson, who does voiceover for JoBLo all the time, and we were just chilling. We walk in, and first guy we saw James Hong in a phone booth, and then we saw Burt Young, and he was sitting alone. And we went up to him and we talked to him, and he was very friendly. He talked to us for a long time. Wow. And it was, and as I was leaving, I saw him and Travis like whispering something to each other, and they like hugged on the other side of the room. And he was just a great guy. He was a very soft-hearted guy. He was not Pauly. That was the thing. He was the opposite of Pauly in real life. And he was very sophisticated. He was a painter as well. He was
a boxer too.
Yeah, he wasn't Pauly. That was the thing at all. Yeah. But it was just. He was almost too good in those roles, though, because it forever typecast him. If you watch stuff that he did before Rocky, he played kind of a wider variety of roles, right? But then afterwards, he always ended up playing like these kind of meatball guys in like, undershirts with mustard stains on them, and it was just like he always played those kinds of, pieces of shit kind of guys, but he wasn't like that. He was a really good guy in real life.
Yeah, and I feel like he's kind of like the unsung hero. That's what my former co-host used to say, Mark. He used to say that he was the unsung hero of the Rocky franchise, and that's true. I mean, I really like his performance in this movie because, like, in the first movie, he was really like unlikable. I mean, obviously that one was. And this movie, he's a little bit more likable. I also like the fact that this time he sticks up for Rocky and says like, hey, you're screwing his head up, blah, blah, blah. And then she's like, well, I love him, you don't, blah, blah, blah.
He's always in all of the movies, he's kind of a piece of shit, though. I mean, like, he's the one who loses all their money in Rocky 5, I mean, he's the most sympathetic he's ever been, probably in Rocky Balboa. I think that's the only time he's really sympathetic.
We definitely feel his pain.
He's kind of a clown in Rocky 4, but that's it. I mean, Rocky 3, he's super.
Oh my god! Great. Don't remind me of the stupid robot. Oh, it's my wife now. Like, oh god.
But then in like Rocky 3,
I'm sorry. That's why I like the direction.
Racist
Fuck that robot, dude. But no, I really like his performance here in the second movie, and I just obviously the scenes in the hospital, like he's really great performance from Burt Young in this movie. And then Adrian, let's talk about that real quick. Hold on, I got some behind the scenes photos here. Some really cool behind the scenes photos I was able to pull. Shout out to my boy Scott. I know he's been aching for us to talk about it. So I gotta be careful how I say this because I don't want to offend anybody, but there was that famous scene in the first one where, hey, Rock, take her to the zoo.
Take her to the zoo.
Yes. He proposes to her at the zoo. Always found that funny because, like, in the first movie, he's like, yeah, take her to the zoo, Rock. And he ends up proposing to her.
Me and my ex, we used to always scream at each other, take her to the zoo. An un-PC joke.
Yeah, that's why I gotta be careful what I say here because very non-PC here. But yeah, there you go, Scott. There's your famous take her to the zoo. I did that for you. But yeah, Again, Talisa Shire, really great performance. We get to
Talia
see
Shire,
them get married.
Talia Shire, mother of Jason Schwartzman, sister of Francis Ford Coppola.
Yep, that's why she was in The Godfather. Yep.
Yeah, great actress.
Yes. Okay. I do have a problem. My one gripe with Rocky 2, and this actually involves Adrian. This is why the first movie's better. But I always felt...
there are a lot of reasons the first movie's better, but
my main gripe with Rocky 2 is I feel like the coma scene was really, really drawn out. More than it needed
they
to
had
be.
to do something to shut her up for a bit, like to get her out of the picture for a while. She was quite a wet blanket in the movie. She's less of a wet blanket. She's in 3, and in 4, and even in 5.
Well, yeah, we saw that character progression.
But she's a bit of a wet blanket.
I married a fighter. Whereas in this movie, she's like, you said you weren't going to fight no more. And then
Yeah. But I mean, it all pays off, I think, and. And it was showing how lost he was without her because he loved her. It's one of the things about the Rocky movies. It's a great love story,
Yeah.
But
it is. That's why we love the first movie.
These two downtrodden people that never thought they'd find love. It's very moving.
Yeah, I just feel like I feel like it just kills the pace of the movie. But then as soon as she wakes up and then win, and then we get that awesome training montage, and Stallone's fucking benching 200 some odd pounds behind his shoulders.
The thing is, though, the movie, it's when you're doing a movie like that, though, it can't all be ups. You got to have some downs too. It's got to have peaks, because that makes the up more exciting.
But that's just it. It's just I feel like it's such a deep valley, though. It's like the movie.
People don't get that though in movies though nowadays. Everybody wants up, fun, 100%, and it's just that's not. Make a great movie, you got to have some beats and some slowdowns, to give people a break, and to rouse them for the next act. It's got to have that kind of thing, and I think that's what Stallone got.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, again, it's not like it doesn't kill the movie. I just feel like it just bogs it down.
But I think that's on purpose, though.
True. I just feel like. Maybe because I don't have kids, maybe it doesn't work for me personally. So maybe that's why I can't I don't know. Every woman I've showed this movie to, they all say the same thing. Well, I don't think that would happen. I don't think she would actually slip into a coma like that in that particular reason. So I'm not the only one.
It's a movie.
Huh?
It's a movie.
True, but I'm just saying it just bogs down. That's my only complaint. Which is why this movie, I was gonna save my rating for the end. Okay, where I feel like the first movie and the first Creed movie, in my mind, they're perfect movies. They're 10s. Though the reason why Rocky 2 isn't a 10, it's up there. It's good. It's because of that. The whole coma thing, I feel like just it brings the movie down a pinch for me.
It never bothered me.
My only complaint. Other than that, this movie, you couldn't ask for a better continuation. Well, I feel like this movie's a continuation. Rocky 3 is the sequel because it's years later. This is a continuation, kind of like Halloween to Halloween 2. It's a continuation. There's no break in between. It continues the story without no break. So, and that's why I really love this movie, is because I feel like Stallone did such a phenomenal job, taking over direction and not making it look or feel different from the first movie. So that's just me, all right, so we're getting close here to 9 o'clock. I'm trying to think if there's anything that we didn't cover, or any other is there any other tidbits about specific Rocky 2 tidbits that we didn't cover?
I mean, one thing we could mention is the fact that the movie was a big financial success, but it was not a critical success. That's the thing. It made a ton of money, and I think that the success of this movie really put Stallone on a different track than he was before. Yeah. Because I think he did lose the critics to some extent because they viewed him as a sellout when he made that movie. But he won over the audience, right, in a big way. Yeah. So it did, in a lot of ways, it really changed the direction of his career, and it made him more of a movie star than an actor. But I think that was fine. I think that's what he wanted at the time, and I think that it paid off perfectly in the end. But, people for a long time, critics really had a bone to pick with him, because
mainly because of the ending. From what I understand, a lot of critics didn't like the ending.
Well, yeah, and he was always getting Razzie nominations for no reason, and it was ridiculous, and people just really had a thing against him. They saw him as like this meathead lug, where he was actually a genius because he wrote all of his work, prolific screenwriter, director, painter, actor, whatever. But they viewed him, I think, as a sellout for this movie. But it's just the business has changed so much since then, though, because now a Rocky 2 would be such a no-brainer, right? Like if they had come out and they'd done Creed and they're like, well, we're not doing a Creed 2 because, it's not good to do a sequel. People would have been thinking they were insane because it's money in the bank. Of course you're going to have to continue with that character. Hell, I mean, Michael B. Jordan's going to make a Creed 4. As long as people go see those movies, he's going to keep making them.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I figured this was a good place to kind of like transition to the end here. The rumors are scaring me right now that they're talking about Jake Paul being the villain in Creed 4. Praying to God, like, please no.
Who knows though? I mean, I don't feel like that's going to happen. I think that's just a rumor. I think Michael B. Jordan's smart enough that whomever they cast as the villain will be good. I think he knows what he's doing at this point, and I don't think he's going to cast Jake Paul. I think if he does cast Jake Paul, he's going to have a damn good reason to do it. I don't see it happening though, especially.
All right, let me ask you this. I'll put you on the spot here. Do you see, I got to be careful how I say this. Do you see Stallone coming back?
No.
No,
I don't think he's going to come back because I think he has a very real grievance against them because he is the creator of Rocky. He's the one who's kept that series going, and he doesn't get a piece of it. And Michael B. Jordan does. Like it's not really fair, right? Like I think he's not going to come back until they give him what's his, which is a significant chunk of the series and of the franchise. I don't see him coming back. I love Michael B. Jordan. I think he's great in those movies, and I don't blame him for being a good businessman. But, him and Ryan Coogler, are making money off of these movies which wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Stallone. So Stallone should have a piece of that pie too. And instead, the producer's son, who's like this hack writer, is getting to be the producer of these films. And it just doesn't really make any sense to me. So, no, I don't think Stallone's going to come back unless that gets settled. I think if that gets settled, he'll come back. But I think it's hard for him as well to like give control of the franchise over to somebody else. I think that was very potent on Rocky 2, because I think that without Ryan Coogler was a very strong vision, who I think was a guy that Stallone put his faith in. They hired more of a journeyman director for the sequel. And I think that Stallone's influence was much more felt in that movie, but I think also when he saw the final cut and he saw like how much they'd cut out of his performance and stuff that he had shot with like the second unit, he realized that he's not the author of those movies anymore.
Yeah, he was one of the co-write. Yeah, he wrote the second Creed movie.
But but they didn't use a lot of his stuff, and they cut a lot of it out. And he was always kind of bitter about it, and that's why he had originally quit the series. I kind of understand too, because it's a different character for a different generation, and they're making a movie about a black hero, and what does Stallone know about that? He doesn't know anything about it, so I kind of get it, but I also kind of understand him wanting a piece of the franchise that he's built from the ground up.
Yeah,
I get
exactly.
it. I'd love to see him come back. I'd love to see him come back.
I hope he does. I'm with you. I don't think he will. I hope he does.
He doesn't need to. He doesn't need to, though. Like they left it perfectly at the end. But I like Michael B. Jordan, though. I think Michael B. Jordan's a smart guy. He's classy. He's never said anything bad about Stallone ever. I think he's a classy guy. He knows exactly. He knows how to be a movie star and how to make these movies, and he's always been very respectful. And he made a great movie with the third film. I didn't like the anime shit, but I think that.
I do have my gripes with Creed 3, but I loved it.
I totally enjoyed it. Very entertaining. Like he's following Stallone's playbook, so I'm sure that Stallone respects him for that. He really is. He's doing exactly what Stallone would have done in the 80s. you know, and it was, but it would be nice if there was some kind of, you know, peacemaking there, you know, passing, but you know, they already passed the baton. So if he doesn't come back, it's not the end of the world. They left Rocky at the right place. I think if they had done Rocky 3 and they'd fucking killed off Rocky off screen, that would have been bullshit.
Yeah.
Or he gets.
Well, you meant Creed 3. You said Rocky 3. So
Creed, yeah. If they Creed 3, if they killed off Rocky, or like, oh hey, I got this horrible email from Rocky. Did you know he's been a racist all these years? You know, he's a terrible guy. You know, if they tried to, like,
they didn't do that. They didn't mention anything. All they said, the only reference that we got was when what's that actor again who's in trouble right now?
Majors, Jonathan Majors.
Jonathan Majors, where he just said, "Hey, well, remember when Rocky got his title shot? Well, I want my title shot too." Like they made a brief reference to remind people.
100%.
I thought it was clever. It was done.
100% respectful of his legacy, and I think that's the best you can hope for. And I think that Jordan's smart with that.
So, this is why I want to continue our discussion real quick. I know we're going. I don't mean to take up your time, Chris, but we're hearing rumblings about a Drago spinoff. We're hearing rumblings about a Rocky in high school TV show. I don't know how I feel about those.
And neither should be made because they're going to be made without Stallone, and there's no Rocky without Stallone. So
exactly, I don't.
Stallone's not involved.
The Drago thing, I don't know, but I don't want to see
the Drago thing. The Drago thing is ridiculous. Do you see that guy leading a movie? There's no chance. You know, like that a Drago spinoff is completely ridiculous. And I think that young Rocky, if you're not doing it with Stallone, I have no interest in seeing it. And I'm not going to support it.
Okay, here's what I do want. If I ever had the chance to pitch this to Mr. Stallone, I want a Mickey prequel. I want a movie set in the 1920s New York or 1920s Philadelphia, centered around a young Mick. That's what I want.
You don't need it. That's the thing. All these characters, all these prequels, people are so obsessed with that kind of thing. You don't need it. You know everything you need to know about Mickey through those movies. You can fill in the blanks yourself, and I think what you can imagine is never going to be as good as what they is never going to be what they come up with. It's always going to be disappointing. It's going to add some layer to the character that you didn't need. You know, we don't need a Rocky. We don't need any Rocky spinoffs. The only Rocky spinoff that was a good idea and they made it was Creed, which was a great idea, and it turned into an awesome series of movies that can stand on its own 2 feet. You know, and I think that that's what's important. All these other things, it would be leaning so heavily on the legacy of Rocky, and you don't have Stallone involved. But it's just the only Stallone prequel kind of thing I could see being kind of interesting would be if he did Rambo in Vietnam. You know, the young Rambo, that might have been interesting if Stallone was involved. But that would be the only one I could possibly see working.
Okay, I'm just saying, it's just what I would want to see. Like, if they're gonna do any other spinoff, I would like to see Mickey get a young Mickey movie. That's just me.
Not for me. Not for me.
That's okay. We're in disagreement here, but that's what I would want. But
if Stallone decides he wants to do it, then I'll definitely watch it. But if Stallone's not involved, then I don't want it.
Fair enough. All right. Well, like I said, I'd love to pitch it to Stallone, even if he wrote it. Like, you know, I
don't think he has the rights. I don't think he has the rights to it anymore. I think he's finished with Rocky to some extent.
Yeah, it's a damn shame too. I feel like he does deserve something from it.
Of course he does, and I think he's let it go to some extent. They're making the making of Rocky as a movie with Peter Farrelly. You know, I mean, and hopefully Stallone's involved with that. If not, like, I don't get why you're gonna make it, but you know, hopefully he's involved. We'll see.
All right. To wrap things up here, going back to Rocky 2, 1 through 10, Chris, what would you give Rocky 2?
Probably a 9, I would say. First one's a 10. Rocky 2's a 9.
Yes, exactly. I'm on the same boat with you. This is a 9 for me. It's the first movie is a perfect movie. It's a 10 for me. This movie, just a hair beneath it, just especially the whole coma thing, which is why I would give it a 9. But the one thing that I feel like this movie strength is, where it's better than the first movie, is the fight. I think the ending fight, I think part of that is because Stallone and Carl Weathers have worked together before, so they're able to do this, go to the next level with this choreography. So I really think the second movie had the better, more entertaining fight. I think the fight was better shot. done in the second movie. But that's it. That's the only. Other than that, the first movie surpasses it in every other aspect. That's just my opinion. All right, Chris, I want to give you the floor real quick. So if there's anything you want to promote, any videos or anything coming up on JoBLo or anything you want to promote, please, the floor is yours.
No, I mean, I got my next week on JoBLo Originals. Probably see my review of The Substitute with Tom Berenger. I'm looking forward to people seeing that because I had a lot of fun revisiting that. And then I've got an interesting video coming out in Striking Distance in a little while, the Bruce Willis movie, because I did a Bruce Willis draft thing on the Force 5 podcast, which was kind of cool. So if anybody wants to check that out, Force 5 podcast, really cool Stallone draft. Not Stallone draft, Bruce Willis draft with a friend, Sean O'Connell, who wrote a book on Willis lately. And yeah, that's about it. And you can catch me every day on JoBLo. I'm always there.
Absolutely, yes. Be sure to subscribe to JoBLo Originals, JoBLo Horror Originals. The links are in the description here. Be sure to give Chris a follow on Twitter and on Instagram. He is there. But yeah, Chris, I just want to say thank you for. I know you're a very, very busy man. I was like, listen, I was like, Joe, we gotta cover Rocky 2. Like, we covered Rocky 3. We covered Rocky. We covered Rocky 3. Next year we can do Rocky 4 because Rocky 4 turns 40 next year. Oh my God, I feel old.
Wow.
Rocky 4 turns 40 next year, so
crazy.
We will be definitely covering both versions of Rocky 4 next year. So, and I guess I'll say it right here, right now. We'll be covering Terminator in October as Terminator turns 40 this year.
40.
So we'll be covering that. I love doing these live. But anyway, when it comes to Rocky 2, I couldn't ask for a better dance partner than Chris Bumbray of JoBLo, the biggest Stallone fan that I know, and who's had experience interviewing the guy. So I was like, dude, we gotta bring in Chris to talk Rocky 2. So
my pleasure. My pleasure, Jay.
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick, guys, if you haven't already, get yourself a NerdCage Live t-shirt. If you're a Rocky fan, we have the Prediction Pain shirt. We also have If He Dies, He Dies. So
nice.
Get yourself a Rocky-themed NerdCage Live t-shirt. We have other shirts and designs as well. Again, any size, any color,
nice.
Whether if you're a skinny booty call or a fat fuck, big or small, we love them all. Get yourself a NerdCage Live t-shirt. You're going to love the way you look. I guarantee, this is the shirt that Burge has. You're going to love the way you look. I guarantee it. The link to our TeePublic is in every video and across all social media. And speaking of social media, please join our NerdCage Live Facebook discussion group. That is NerdCage Nation. Give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram. The handle is @nerd_cage, and we also have a Discord server if you want to join the discussion as well. And of course, NerdCage Live Gaming on Twitch, and our sub channel NerdCage Live Gaming if you want to see Joe and I battle through some video games. As of right now, we are playing Bayonetta 2 and Super Smash Bros. Brawl. So check those out on Twitch. We're gonna be on Twitch on Saturday. And we're going to be on Twitch on Tuesday for Bayonetta. And, of course, be sure to check out our spoiler discussion of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, where Tyler from JoBLo was with us as well. Also, check out our live stream with Tyler and Lance of JoBLo for their Neasley Nostalgic podcast. And our friends JT and Tava, we did the live stream with them last week as well. I have a huge show coming up. 2 weeks from tonight, we have a huge guest coming on. I will announce it hopefully Saturday. I just didn't have stuff ready to announce it, but we're having a huge guest Thursday, June 27th. It is a musician. That's the only hint you guys are going to get. It's a metal/rock musician. I've been trying to get this person on for a while. I finally nailed him down. So 2 weeks from tonight, huge show. I will announce it shortly. So until then, everybody, we please ask you to like, comment, subscribe, ring that bell, and spread that shit like syphilis. So to you, I say from your city, the land of the oranges, Syracuse, New York, and Montreal, Quebec, to all of our friends and fans around the world at NerdCage Live and JoBLo.com. As always, enjoy life, stay safe, eat your vegetables, do your push-ups, go to the gym, keep watching Rocky movies. Good night, God bless, and have the best day of your life.
NerdCage Live and gaming are a perfect match.
Shoot the J, Joe. Okay. Shoot it!
All right. Over on NerdCage Live on Twitch, Jay and Joe go live.
Call me Bazooka Joe.
It's all about
Kaboom! Playing both old school and new school games every Tuesday night. Ooh, what a sight!
Jay, stop looking at her face and run.
But she's so beautiful.
So be sure to follow NerdCage Live on Twitch.
Run for your life, Joe. Run for your life, Joe.
Running.
Run faster. Oh no, Joe, the galaxy's doomed because of you.
To scratch your gaming itch.
Oh, nice kick, Joe.
Thank you.
Yo, that's f***ing diabolical. Wait. Yo!
That's twitch.tv/NerdCageLive.
Ooh, trying to get out of the nerd cage, are ya? Well, before you go, hit that subscribe button. And if you're really intrigued, ring that bell. Thank you for dropping by. Until next time, tell everyone you know about NerdCage Live!